Still rocking after all these years.
This is the story of my rock and roll butler.
This is it, the show that started it all. Often imitated, but never equal. From San Francisco, USA. Online since 2004. It's the one and only Rock and Roll Geek Show. With the original rock and roll geek, Michael Butler.
Ira Blacker, thank you for coming on the Rock and Roll Geek Show. I really appreciate it.
Sincerely, my pleasure to be here.
How did you find out about my show? Because you sent me an email. I always like to ask people how they found me to come on. Why did you want to come on this little podcast here?
Basically, what I do, because I've always been a very efficient and organized business person. Mm-hmm. And I've become pretty adept at the internet from being one of the first websites online for a business in 1994.
What was that website called?
That was called pbdink.com. It's now defunct. It was my printing business. It was a national business. I was the broker. And anyway, all that really was a starting point, and I grew from there. And of course, now I'm using AI. So my trusty friend ChatGPT, when I have a question, so I don't have to search a million websites, I use them, and it scrubs the web in 5 seconds. So
it's
I posed the questions.
What was the question that you asked?
Who are the top music podcasters in America?
Right. Now I know you're pulling my leg. I know you're full of shit now.
No. You came up pretty high near the top. Believe me.
How about that? I'm in the Podcast Hall of Fame, if that means anything, if you care. But
it told me you were very important, and therefore I wanted to be on your show.
Well, that's nice of ChatGPT to say that. I really appreciate it, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Does your ChatGPT have a name? Because I call mine Mrs. Beasley.
No, but when it screws up, I take out all my venom on it. I curse. You can see a lot.
Yeah. Then she
doesn't read some of the stuff.
She doesn't answer your questions after that.
It does. The only good thing about it is that it's emotionless, so that never takes offense.
Yeah, exactly. So she suggested you come on the Rock and Roll Geek Show. That's nice. That's nice. I appreciate it. Well, anyway, thank you for coming on. For people who don't know, by the way, your book is called Once a King, Now a Prince, The True Tale of Family Dysfunction, the Mob, Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. And I finished it this morning. I had gotten to like 90% done, and I finished it today. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you for sending it to me. I really appreciate it. So for people who don't know, as you know, this is a rock and roll podcast. So for people who don't know, I will say what I know, and you tell me if I'm wrong or not.
Sure.
You weren't a manager, so to speak. You ran a booking agency?
I actually was both. I started as a manager, and then the Ruggiero brothers in a club called the Gingerbread when I was in college down in Greenwich Village. They were part of a couple of guys. I think they were members of the Gallo gang, and really nice and funny guys. They hit me with this final comment when the band I had there, which was unique and wonderful for its day, who else do you have? The minute they said that, I evolved from a manager to an agent, and I went out and I picked up a bunch of other groups. And that's how I segued into to the music business.
So you booked the bands at these guys' club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was an agent. My company was American Talent International, with artists like ZZ, the Eagles, Rod Stewart and the Faces, Savoy Brown, Deep Purple, yada, yada, yada. And then when I left the agency business, I went into management with my first act, which was Rush. And then I became purely a manager.
How did you find Rush, or did they find you?
Well, it's a short, long story in that a gentleman by the name of Ray Daniels was having trouble with one of my agents who worked for me. I was no longer booking so to speak, at that point. I was handling the artists as a responsible agent. I had hired help that did all the calling out to the club owners and the concert promoters. And one of the arrogant little guys who worked for me wouldn't take the guy's call. So he called me to whine and he said, "Can you help me? I can't buy acts from your agency." Now, my father and his family were all Canadian, so I always liked Canada. I had an affinity for it, so I figured, all right, I'll deal with you. So he came. I started selling him acts for his the Victory Theater. His name was Ray Daniels. Somewhere along the line thereafter, he came by my office and he said, "I want you to hear something. I'm looking for help with this act." They were Rush. It was a home pressed album on a home based label, and he set up a performance in a local bar, which was what they were doing at the time, playing bars. And I went to see them, and I was impressed enough. I mean, that at that stage in their career, they reminded me of a Zeppelin clone.
Right. They were more
Not
of a
as
hard
good.
rock band than they are now. Now they're down. Now they're. I guess they're. I guess
Now
they're
they're
considered
progressive.
prog. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the point, to me, I said, "Hey, here's a band I can make some money with."
What made you
So I
think that? Because
flew.
you like the songs?
I like the overall sound. I was looking for somebody to manage anyway. They were in the right time in the right place. Ray made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I flew to Toronto, signed a deal to become the co-manager, which I became, and basically I did all the work.
Huh.
I did all the day to day, everything, made all the decisions. I engineered the plan that got them the record deal with Irv Steinberg. It's funny. One of the things, years later, when you get back into reviewing your history, if you
Right.
will,
Yeah.
is you read what other people thought about what you did, who you were, so on and so forth. And there was a fair amount of accuracy. Rush mentioned me in their Getty's book. I mentioned in a number of areas, liner notes on the first album, so on and so forth. There was in Wikipedia had some mention of me, but it was never quite accurate and never credible. Um, I did a thing which I was always, I think, a step ahead, and I had a buddy called John Scher. John did two things. He was a promoter in New Jersey. He was the Bill Graham of New Jersey, if you will.
Yeah.
And he also had an import house. He imported rock music on European labels that were not released in America. And at that point, which is also how I found Kraftwerk, I was occasionally scouring those same music bins myself, looking for the next thing. So John did me a favor, and I asked him to do the following. If any record companies call you and ask you how the Rush import is doing, and it wasn't being imported anyway, but he was to say, it's a blowout hit. It's the biggest import I have.
Right. Oh, so you
So
were
he
friends
did
with
that.
this record store guy, and people actually called him and asked him, huh?
Yeah, he was more than a record store. He was a distributor
Okay.
of import albums, a fairly big one. So he all over the East Coast and Midwest. His stuff was in their stores. Secondly, I got a hold of WMMS Radio, Donna Halpern. They were playing a little bit of Rush at the time. Although if you hear Donna tell it in Wikipedia, she broke Rush. She discovered Rush. This is what I mean about all the vows. It's the same way I made the deal with Irving Steinberg, the president. I was the head of my company. Irving was just the head of his company. We dealt as equals. I had no reason to deal with the A&R people or anybody beneath him. And nobody had the authority to make the powerhouse deal other than him anyway. So I then got Donna to jump up from lunar rotation, which meant the occasional evening airplay, into heavy rotation during the day. I then put them on a bunch of dates with Savoy Brown, with Kiss, with other bands that I represented because I can control who was on the bill. And the next thing, I approached Erwin Steinberg, president of Mercury Records, now Phonogram or whatever the latest incarnation is, and said, Erwin, here is the deal of a lifetime for you. We made a deal. It was major money, and it became a major first release for Mercury. So that's the story. So it's funny how things get twisted over the years when nobody is speaking for you and you're not speaking for yourself, because I was well out of the music business at that point. And everybody had the latest version of who signed the band, who hit the home run.
Did Getty give you credit for discovering them, or did he give you any credit at all? I heard did they sue you?
No, I sued them.
You sued them. Why? Oh, they fired you, right? In your book, you said they fired you.
Well,
did they fire you?
Yes. Well, it wasn't them. The band really had no say.
Right, their manager.
I was not really great at managing myself, so to speak. I was great at managing them, not myself, because I wasn't kissing their ass, getting close to the band. I was dealing through Ray at all times. Ray and Vic, who Ray also fired, would go on dates, and the promoters would say, this is not me blowing it out my hoo-ha. This is what promoters would say.
Right.
And it was part of what was stress. Quote unquote, the greatest thing you ever did was get a hold of Ira Blacker to make him co-manager, because I had a knack of doing things a little different. My tours were always the best in the business. I was the number 2, so to speak, in reputation following Frank Barcelona at Premiere, but my tours were always better than his. My acts made money on first tours, Savoy Brown, Rod and the Faces. English bands were losing their ass touring America, not my bands. So this would just piss them off. And then finally, when I left ATI, I guess they figured, well, and I can't blame them in a way, part of their thinking must have been, hey, he left, and now what do we do? But after I left, I booked their entire tour and then turned the dates over to ATI to issue the contracts. So that's what I did.
The very label that you quit, or the company that you quit.
Yeah, which was my own company anyway. So I get a letter one day in the mail from Ray, his attorney, saying, would no longer belong to the contract, return the 20 grand that you took as a commission, blah, blah, blah. 2 years later, their attorney is sitting, because there was some kind of partnership or business relationship with the attorney, sitting in front of the judge, and the judge waves a contract in front of his face and says, what is this? Oh, that's a contract. That's right. That's what we call a contract. I got $250,000 as a settlement in 1976 dollars, which would be probably 15, 20 times that today with inflation.
Why do you think they fired you?
Huh?
Why do you think they fired you? Somebody else offered them a better deal, or?
Money, just money. I launched the band. At that point, the band was launched. The record was a hit. And Ray was a greedy bastard. Right after he fired me, he fired Vic Daniels, his other partner. And Ray had some issues. Basically, he fired himself. He became a drunk, and he got fired by the band.
Did you ever go on the road with Rush?
No.
Okay.
I only went on one date. I went to Toronto when I went to see them live.
Were you friends with the guys?
Only to the extent that their tour manager, Howard Ungerleider, got the job because of me. I put him into that job. And it was, I write a lot of blogs following the book. And if the book takes off, the blogs become the sequel. It's all there, but for an editor.
Right.
And one of the blogs I wrote was an in-depth, detailed story about Rush and Howard. When I ran into him in the band, and this is in the book, at Polydor Records, because I was there at other business, I was managing a different band, and I saw them in a room in a conversation. I went to say hello because, hey, I got Howard the job. Howard used to work for me for a couple of years at ATI. I launched the band. I was entitled at least to hello.
Right.
I didn't sue them. They didn't sue me. The lawsuit was by and between the contracted parties, which was Ray Daniels, Vic Wilson, and Ira Blacker. It had nothing to do with Rush. So they were not even dragged into it, period. They would not even look at me. And I found that extremely hurtful. After what I did, after the moves that I made to launch a career.
They had this reputation of being like super nice guys, don't they?
Yes, but they just,
wouldn't even look you in the eye.
I'm not saying they were bad people. I'm not saying they were bad people. I just think they didn't know how to act at the time. And they were shielded from all the information by Ray. Ray was an evil bastard. That I can't put it in any other fashion.
You say you represented You represented Rod Stewart in the Faces. You represented Savoy Brown. Did you manage those bands too, or did you just?
When I left, no. Billy Gaff managed Rod in the Faces. Interestingly enough, Rod asked me to manage him once. We were both on a vacation in Bermuda, and my reply was, because that was who I was. I had ethics. Despite what people think of, folks in the music business, right. I said, hey, Billy's a friend. If you ever fire him, I'd be interested. But I can't do that to Billy and just replace him when he's still your manager. Savoy Brown, after I left the agency business, I then took on as a manager. So I managed Savoy Brown for several years.
And who was in Savoy Brown that went on to be in Foghat? The drummer, Rod Price?
Peverett.
Lonesome Dave, okay, yeah.
Lonesome Dave, Toby, I forget his last name, and Roger Earl.
Roger Earl, the guitar, two guitar
Yeah,
players.
Roger was a sweetheart. He gave me the most heartfelt testimonial for the back of my book. I was shocked. I never thought they would even, think of me that way. But I was nice to them, and they remembered.
That's good.
So it's nice, that Rory Gallagher's brother Donald did the same to me, and Nazareth did the same to me.
Okay, you managed Rory. Did you manage Rory Gallagher?
No, we were friends. We were Guinness mates, and although he drank a lot more Guinness than I did,
great guitar player, that guy. Woo.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a story. I wrote a blog about this as well. God, I almost sound like if you ever saw In Living Color. Remember the Calhoun, the blues player?
Yes.
Played by David Greer?
Yeah.
I wrote a song about this.
Right. I wrote a blog about this.
So I wrote a blog about this, how over the years, because I went into publishing, I never stopped learning, and I learned the craft of songwriting. And I really wished I could have worked with Rory, taken him to the next level, because if he could have gotten
he never broke in the States.
No, he was a typical $2,500-$3,500 journeyman blues band, and it was down to the songs. Too many of his songs sounded similar.
Aerosmith said they had to follow him once, and he blew them off the stage. Joe Perry said.
Mm-hmm. Really?
You managed, so you brought in Roy Gallagher. And you said Nazareth wrote a testimonial about you. And Nazareth is one of my top three bands of my favorite bands on the face of the earth.
Really?
Which guy in Nazareth wrote the testimonial? Because the only one that's left alive is the bass player.
It's on the back of the book. I'm sorry.
Pete Agnew, probably.
No, I think it was the lead singer.
Oh, Dan McCaffrey, rest in peace. He's dead now.
No, it wasn't Dan. Can't be. Anyway, it's there. It's memorialized.
Did you manage Nazareth?
No, purely agent. I booked their tours.
What year was that when you booked Nazareth?
My guess is 73, 4.
73. That would have been probably the third album, Razamanaz, maybe. No, that's a little bit later. Anyway, I'm geeking out on Nazareth. I love that band so much. You also worked
Yeah.
with Deep Purple.
Yep. I had a 3-year agreement with them. And speaking of heartbreak, I did a great job with them. And an agent who worked for me used to beg me, I made a mistake. I allowed him, I gave him the band. He would beg me to become their responsible agent. So I did so. He got friendly with the management. Next thing I know, he left with the band, opened up his own agency at the expiration of their contract. But that's the music business.
So you say you were an agent. Explain to people who don't know exactly what an agent does as opposed to a manager.
An agent is the one who books the tours and does it in a fashion of efficiency. I used to use what's called the mileage guide, the Rand McNally mileage guide, which gives you the mileage between every city.
Right, road
So
atlas
my
type
tours
thing.
were extremely well routed,
Close
which
together.
which meant more money in the pocket of the bands because it was a more efficient tour.
Yeah.
But I think, if I may, where I stood apart from just about every other agent in the business, I tried to be creative in what I did. For example, I will admit, I did hear the Stones had some rumbling at one point about a rock and roll circus for a tour. They never really put it together. They did something lightweight well after the fact. I put a circus together with Rod and the Faces, and it was a one-ring circus, and that was the opening act. Another time we had bagpipes because of the Mac and Rod were both Scots. So I always tried to do things that were creative. The way I handled the Rush album deal, that would enhance the careers. When it came to English bands, I would handle all the immigration, get them their H1s. And interestingly enough, a story about Uriah Heep. Jerry Brown was a slick character. He went on to become a big movie producer. He was the manager of Uriah Heep. So,
and what
they
year
would
was
send
this? About the
contracts.
same year, around 73?
Yeah, around 73. They would send contracts by me to sign, 3-year exclusive agency, and they get to America and they're in immigration on the non-American side of the fence, so to speak. They're not officially on our soil.
Right.
And I get a call, where are H1s? And I said, where's my contract?
I know the story. I love this story.
Yeah, so I sent Wally Meyerowitz, who's also deceased now, down to immigration, and contracts in hand. They signed the papers. He handed over the H1 visas. Boom, they got through, and the rest is history.
So they didn't sign the contract when you had booked their tour, but they had not signed you the contract, so you could have potentially not gotten paid.
That's right.
But you had the whole
That's
tour
right.
booked, and you said, "Where's the contract?" And what did they say when you said, "Where's my
Too
contract?"
bad, in essence. Yeah, exactly. I'll give you, for example, I learned from Black Sabbath. I did the first Black Sabbath tour in America.
Did they headline? Or who they opened?
Black Sabbath?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it was just smaller venues, and
Okay.
they might have headlined.
All right.
They were managed by a small-time Manchester or Birmingham mob guy by the name of Pat Meehan. And I didn't bother to get a contract, but then again, it was an associated booking. I knew I was going to be probably leaving anyway, which I did. And he pulled the tour on me and gave it to Premiere. So my whole tour went down the drain. That taught me a lesson.
What was the lesson that it taught you? Get a contract signed.
That's right. Boy, the hell with you.
Yeah.
No ticky, no shirty. Pardon my old-fashioned
Right.
old-fashioned remark.
And do you remember if Uriah Heep headlined? Because the only time I remember them headlining
Oh
the
yeah,
States
you are
was
he
around,
headline.
okay, because I only remember them headlining around the mid '70s.
Hmm.
Saw them
Yeah,
at the
I mean,
Jacksonville Coliseum when I was like 15
depending on
years old.
the level of the artist, uh, most artists when they came in, they became the opening act.
Yeah.
When they didn't have a bona fide headliner at the agency, we created one by taking Rod and the Faces on top, Savoy Brown in the middle, and the Grease Band, formerly with Joe Cocker, as the opening act. In the case of Deep Purple, they were second on the bill to Savoy Brown, who were headlining at that point.
Were you
And
booking?
then they went on to
Go
headline.
ahead. Sorry.
No problem. And they went on to headline the next tour.
Were you
You're right. He probably were an opening act initially.
you were probably booking? You weren't booking arenas at this point. You were probably booking theaters, I guess.
No, it was booking everything. It just depended upon on who the act was.
Because I heard that Rod Stewart they played smaller venues because they wanted them to be packed houses, right?
No, it depended on the city. On that tour, they were playing larger venues. In the case of after that tour, where I looked at a given city and compared venues, where the right size venue at that time might have been, let's say, 7,500. In Boston, for example, there were two choices: 20,000 at the Boston Gardens, or 4,000 at the Music Hall. I didn't want to risk and be greedy and not have a sellout, or
Right.
at least near a sellout. It would have not served the band
Yeah, it
well.
wouldn't have looked good.
Instead, I put them in the Music Hall, and it was riot time.
Yeah.
I mean, crazyville. They were scaling. They literally, kids found ladders. They were scaling the roof, trying to bust into the theater to get in.
Did you go to any?
And
Did
we
you
made
go
it-
to these shows?
Oh yeah, there's one I went to at Cobo Hall where David Ruffin joined the Rod set, and Rod and I went across to the Pontchartrain where we were staying, and we get into the lobby, and all of a sudden we look to our side, and the groupies spotted us, and there must have been about 40 kids. We were at the elevator, and I said, Rod, we're not going to make it if the elevator's not going to get here on time. We turned around and we went to the stairwell. And in those days, trust me, I was a couch potato par excellence. I was heavier,
A little out of shape.
to say the least. Later on, I became a physical guru, martial arts, boxing, you name it. And we ran up 26 floors with the groupies and the kids chasing us until finally we made it by the skin of our teeth into our rooms. It's possible you could be hurt because when you deal with a large crowd who are coming after you, anything could happen.
So Rod Stewart, I'm sure all the bands, but Rod Stewart band, the Faces in particular, were quite famous for pulling in the extremely hot women groupies, or I guess you call them.
Oh yeah.
And you're hanging out with these guys. Were you getting any of their, left the girls who didn't get? You getting any groupie action?
In those days, no, because, for example, I walked into a room. My partner's in bed with two girls. He says, "You want to join me?" I says, "No."
Right. You don't want to be.
I was
bumping
married.
legs.
I was married,
Oh,
and
okay.
I was not cheating on my wife. Now I was married 3 times, and between each one, there was a number of years that I was single. In those days, yes, but that was after the Rod Stewart days.
I would imagine Rod Stewart had probably the best. I would imagine, how can I say this? Imagine Rod Stewart's groupies look a little bit better than Uriah Heep's groupies, I guess you should say.
Probably. And I remember I lived on, my first apartment in Manhattan was on 2nd Avenue and 92nd Street, give or take, around the corner from Elaine's. I went in there for a bite with Rod one night, and it's like the whole place went berserk. Everybody turned around. He was the talk of the town, so to speak.
Yeah, Rod Stewart. those guys were quite famous with their them and the Ian Hunter and Mott the Hoople guys. I think those and the David Bowie crew. I think they were the ones that they were famous for getting the cream of the crop groupies. I think.
Oh yeah.
So
Absolutely.
So you worked with Savoy Brown, Keith Emerson. Was that Emerson, Lake and Palmer? No.
He was with a band called The
Nice.
Nice.
That's pre Emerson, Lake and Palmer, right?
Exactly. That was when I first joined the music business, working for Joe Glazer at Associated Booking, and The Nice was an early signing.
So you mainly worked with bands from overseas, not U.S.
No,
acts.
not true. I tended to love going to England. I basically brought, mainly I wouldn't say, but I did bring literally half the British bands that came to America.
Huh. So
in the 60s or 70s.
They kind of have you to credit for their success because, these bands wouldn't be successful in the United States unless they toured the shit out of the United States. Back then you had
So Savoy Brown meant nothing in England. And you know what was shocking? I originally, when I was at Associated Booking, did a tour for Small Faces, Itchy Park Small Faces, before Rod Stewart, when Marriott was in the group.
Right.
And the group broke up, but I always loved the group. And the thing with Rod, when he joined the Faces, the English didn't want to know. He basically would have been a total dud in the UK without America.
Yeah.
That was shocking. After Jeff Beck for him, after Itchy Park for the Faces, you would think the English would have said, wow, look at this, supergroup.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't. Same with Savoy Brown.
Who else did you rep? Who else? Other famous bands? Deep Purple.
ZZ Top, Allman Brothers.
You were one of the first people who booked ZZ Top?
No, not the first. The first was Phil Walden, who was the owner of the record company of the Allman Brothers. And he had an agency called Paragon. And Bill Hall from Macon, Georgia, now deceased, lovely man.
Right. He worked with the Allman Brothers, where they were from.
Yeah, he was very friendly with Saul Safian, who was my partner. And we decided to hire Bill. Bill was willing to come. And he joined us at ATI and brought ZZ with him. And I'll tell you, ZZ, and I don't know if you know this, but Bill Ham, now deceased, ZZ's manager, used to work at London Records. He was a sales rep for London Records, where Savoy Brown was. So if you could imagine why he liked the sound of ZZ and where ZZ got some of their influence from, it was early Savoy Brown, especially with Chris Yulden. Chris Yulden was when he was in the band, that was the height of Savoy Brown. They never, ever got better, in my opinion. But I saved Bill's life once in Central Park. ZZ were playing an open-air concert, a freebie concert. They had these series at Central Park. And there was some gangbangers encroaching on the stage, trying to get on stage. Bill Ham saw this and goes over and, as the English would say, got kind of stroppy and was not too kind. And next thing I know, one pulls about an 8-inch blade, and it looked like he was going to slice and dice.
Yeah, that story's also in your book.
That's in my book. And I did some begging and shucking and jiving and literally saved his ass.
Oh, there you go. How about that? Wow, you had how old are you?
Now?
Yeah.
I'll be 84 this fall.
84. Congratulations. Wow. You're still
you.
Kicking. You sound like you got all your faculties about you and everything.
Oh, clearly.
Are you married now?
No.
Single.
3 times was enough.
Single at 84. I don't know if I want
to. I would say it's not advisable.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if I want to be single at 84. You need a woman to take care of you when you're 84, right?
Kind of sexist sounding, but I agree with you.
So in the book, there's all kinds of you got a lot of girls in the. I mean, you had a lot of sexual escapades in the book as well.
Oh yeah.
So congratulations on that, I guess I should say. we're almost out of time, Ira. I'm so sorry that we have to cut it short. But you also, your half sister is Ginger from Gilligan's Island.
Yes, Jean Louise.
Huh? Are you close with? Is she still alive?
She is alive in about, I would say, 92.
You close with her?
No. We were very close when I was a little kid. She left when I was 4. I met her again at 15. and with all due respect to her, my father abused the hell out of her in a different fashion than the way he abused me.
Your father was her father as well, or her stepfather?
No, her father.
Okay, so
we shared a father, different mothers.
Ah, okay. Your father in the book.
Right.
Your father's a, I guess you could say a major dickhead. I guess is the words.
Totally. Well, he was mentally ill.
Did you ever make up with your dad before he died?
Sort of, but he was, like I said, he was lifetime mental issues, and he never could fully reconcile the damage he did to either of us.
He put you in a mental institution.
Yeah, I was 6 years old.
6 years old in a mental institution. What does that do to a kid?
It scared the shit out of me.
I would imagine it makes you
literally
a tough motherfucker too, right? I mean, it's part of the language.
No, it makes you a victim until you can deal with being not a victim.
I mean, what goes to a 6-year-old kid's mind when he gets put into a mental institution? Man.
Well, I'll even compound that. I'll make it worse than you made it sound. It's when your parents abandon you.
Yeah.
You don't know why. You don't know why.
Yeah.
You're there. There was one thing I read about in the book when I see these people on, I forget what the drug of choice was in those days, where they basically turn you into a zombie.
Yeah, like Thorazine or some shit.
The adults, I had a picture of the adults walking single file on an upper floor on a balcony, and it was like something out of a fucking horror movie.
Man, and you live to tell the tale. I'm surprised that you're not in a mental institution now. I mean, that would be enough to put a person in a mental institution for the rest of their life.
Oh, clearly.
You pulled through. You made it through to the other side. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, fortunately, several things occurred in my life. I was blessed with a high intelligence, which helps when you want to survive. Let's face it, not demeaning anybody with lesser intelligence. It allows you to, at least with a clouded mind, think things through with a little more efficiency. And I got help. I went into psychoanalysis early on as a young adult. I dealt with my issues, got into working out. I became a gym rat, martial artist, boxer, and was determined not to be a victim anymore.
Are you financially set enough to, to be living the rest of your life comfortably, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. Not per se for the music business, because there were some lean years. There were some stupid, mistakes that I did, which I clearly tell in the book. I didn't hide anything. My life is an open book, no pun intended. But I did very well in business later on with other businesses, with commercial printing, for example. And I did very well in the stock market. I bought Amazon and Nvidia in the early days. So I don't have to, I'm doing okay. I'm living large, as they say.
You live alone?
I live alone.
Where are you living now? You living in Florida? Because you had
I'm living in Florida, but I'm not living where typically people go. I'm living in the deep South. I'm living in Jacksonville, which is more like Alabama and Mississippi.
I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida.
Did you really?
That's where I grew up.
Then you know.
I went to the Jacksonville Coliseum. It's where I don't
know. Do I call you Bubba or do you call me Bubba?
What's that?
I said, do I call you Bubba or do you call me Bubba?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and now I live in New York. So we
Right.
switched places. I'm going to go back to Jacksonville again. So I love it there in Jacksonville. What part of Jacksonville you live in?
I'm about a mile from the ditch, as they say. You know,
St. John's
the
River?
waterway between no between Jacksonville and the beaches. When you go over
That's
the
the
bridge.
intercoastal waterway.
Yeah, I am on the very eastern part. Any further east, I'd be at the beach.
So you are around Marsh Landing or around there or something like that.
Yeah,
Atlantic
yeah.
Boulevard or Beach Boulevard?
I'm between the two.
Okay. All right. Around St. John's Bluff area, somewhere around there. All right. I'm
No,
getting,
much further east.
what I miss most about Jacksonville is one, the boiled peanuts, and two, the Gulf shrimp. You're so lucky to, I don't know.
Oh yeah, the Gulf shrimp, yes. But I gotta tell you, finally, after 4 years being here, a pizza place opened up. It's actually a chain
Huh.
called Bronx House Pizza. It's good as anything I've ever had in New York, if
Oh.
not better.
I will have to check it out
And
when I go back to
bagels,
Jacksonville.
Bangin' Bagels, which is just opened up literally a block or two away. So finally, they're getting some good food. Italian food is a problem in this town.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is a place downtown called La Chena, but I mean it's like Murray Hill, which is the opposite end of the world
on the
for
other
me.
side,
I don't
on
like driving
Riverside,
at
on
night.
the other side of the river.
Exactly.
There's good Southern food in Jacksonville. There's good barbecue. There's good seafood. Boy, is there
Yeah.
good seafood in Jacksonville, man.
Yep, there is.
All right, Ira Blacker, thank you so much for coming on the Rock and Roll Geek Show. I really appreciate you doing this.
It's my
You've lived quite the life.
yeah.
Did you
It
put
was
the book?
different.
Did you put the book out yourself?
I did. I had this thought. If I went through the major publishing houses and agent, that whole thing, it could have been a year before I nailed something, and then 2 years before they could put it
Yeah.
out.
You could be dead by
And
the
it
time the
being
thing comes
at
out.
83, did I want to be 87 when the book finally comes
Yeah,
out?
you can't do interviews or anything by then,
So
possibly.
exactly. So I did a deal with a company called Book Baby, and then shifted it over to KDP Amazon because Book Baby wasn't cutting it. And I got to tell you something. If you think the music business is dirty,
Oh, tell me about
try
it.
the book business.
Yeah,
Ah.
there's no money in books.
Nope. Nope. If I told you what I've spent so far to sell what I've sold, it would be embarrassing.
Yeah,
Therefore, I'm not going to tell you.
It's a labor. It's a labor of love. At least now you get most of the money. I listened to the audiobook as well. Who did you hire the guy that read it? Because you didn't read it.
Yes, Sanford Lee. He's a guy who had just started. I met him when he did his first podcast. He did a podcast with me. Very nice gentleman. And I've always been a loyal kind of guy, which has not always been the smartest business tack to take. But I believe in loyalty. And I let him do the narration. And he did a good job.
Once again, the book is called Once a King, Now a Prince, subtitled The True Tale of Family Dysfunction, the Mob, Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. I will post a link to where you can buy this book on rockandrollgeek.com. Thank you again, Ira Blacker, for coming on. It was really nice to talk to you. You sound like it. Well, next time I go back to Jacksonville, I'm going to have to look you up, and we'll have to go have
I'd be pissed off if you didn't.
I might be back there pretty soon. So I grew up there, so
Good.
I could try to go back
Good.
often.
And if you don't have family here, you got a place to stay. I got a guest room.
Oh, I appreciate it. I might hit you. No, I won't hit you up, but I appreciate that offer. We definitely have to get together. You sound like a stand-up guy.
I try to be.
All right, Ira Blacker, thanks again for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. And anytime you want to do this again, it'd be my pleasure.
Sounds great. All right, bye now.
Bye.
There you go. Ira Blacker, nice guy. The book is called the book is called Once a King, Now a Prince, a true tale of family dysfunction, the mob, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Go out and get it. Thanks, Ira Blacker, for coming on the Rock and Roll Geek Show. He didn't have to come on this little podcast. Thank you for listening, friends. Rockandrollgeek.com is where you can find this show. Find me on the Facebook, R&R Geek. Find me on the Twitter, R&R Geek. Find me on the Instagram, Rock and Roll Geek. Don't ask. And thank you for the donations. Please keep the donations coming, because without your donations, this show would die a horrible, putrid, stench-filled death. Michael Street's pick for today, Dog Days of Podcasting, Day 12, is Little Feat. This song is called Old Folks Boogie. I'll talk to you tomorrow, friends. Thanks again to Ira Blacker for coming on the show. He was a great guy.
Off our rockers acting crazy, and with the right medication we won't be lazy. Old folks boogie down on the farm, wheelchairs they were locked on and on. Bed off pacemakers with matching alarm. Gives you just one more chance to spend one more yarn. Know that you're over the hill. Man makes a promise that your body can't feel. Old folks boogie, boogie we will. 'Cause to us, their thoughts as good as a thrill. Back at the home, time is your own. Facilities there, well, it's all out on loan. The bank foreclosed and your bankruptcy shows.
And your credit creeps to an all-time low.
So you know that you're over the hill when your man makes a promise that your body can't feel.
It's a rock and roll geek train wreck.